My understanding is she is a quadriplegic at this point due to something that happened while she was incarcerated, and her mobility is extremely limited, and the long-term prognosis is not very good at this point.
We're about to watch the parole hearing for a momster who is now suffering from something I think people call karma, or maybe divine providence, or just poetic justice, perhaps. Either way, whatever you want to call it, this momster, she allowed her daughter with cerebral palsy to die of starvation. And now she was sentenced to 50 years in prison in 2021, but it appears that while in prison, we don't have the details, something happened to her that left her as a quadriplegic.
Our top story, Marilyn Markle, an Elizabeth woman charged in connection to the death of a 25-year-old woman with cerebral palsy who died of neglect, testified last month that her husband, Glenn, and the young woman's mother, Karen Harrison, plotted to starve her. Kyra Harrison was found dead in November of 2018 in a home that she shared with the three suspects and a 7-year-old boy. The call initially came in as a natural death, but when RPSO got to the scene in the Plainview community, they found deplorable conditions. A coroner's report said Kyra, who was wheelchair bound, weighed 70 pounds and was found on a mattress on the floor covered with rotting food and bodily fluids. The report attributed failure to thrive and dehydration, results of neglect, for her death. It was ruled a homicide. Marilyn Markle accepted a plea deal that gave her 15 years in prison on charges like conspiracy to commit second-degree murder. She told the court that she heard a plot between Karen and Glenn, who she said were having an affair, to starve Kyra and then move to Texas with the young boy. They reportedly threatened Marilyn if she went to police. She said the plot began in August of 2018 and it lasted until Kyra died in November of 2018. Karen Harrison is serving 50 years in prison for a plea in October of 2021.
This is kind of an unusual case. It's a medical parole request. She's currently on compassionate parole, I guess you would call it, compassionate release. And then she was transferred back to the facility or back to the custody of DOC. And now she's, we're considering a medical parole. I won't say that she requested it. I'm saying that's what we're considering. And so in this particular case, I think it's Mr. Barra, Danny Barra to my right, is going to handle the question about this. But we have some folks too that are going to be speaking on behalf or trying to get her paroled. And then we're going to have one person that is going to speak that is in opposition. So, Mr. Tuggle, would you start out and tell us what you have to say about this particular case?
Well, again, I'm not as familiar with the case as Ms. Speed is. Again, I'm kind of just coming in on the back end, but it's my understanding that there is some significant medical issues currently with Ms. Harrison. That in speaking with Ms. Speed, there is a very, very, very unlikely scenario that she's going to improve to the point that she would possibly be able to be returned to the Department of Corrections. I think my understanding is she is a quadriplegic at this point due to something that happened while she was incarcerated, and her mobility is extremely limited.
Correct.
It's my understanding that the nursing home that she's just about on 100% care on behalf of the nursing home, unable to feed herself, unable to do any of her ADLs, her activities of daily living. All of that is very, very, very limited at this point, and the long-term prognosis is not very good at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tuggle. Appreciate that. Ms. Speed, would you tell us what you know about this?
Yes, sir. So I initially admitted Ms. Harrison into our facility October the 31st of 2024. About a week prior to, I got a call from the social worker at the prison that she was at, stating that she was here in Shreveport at the Willis-Knighton Piermont Hospital. So I did go and assess her to see, that's our protocol, to assess the patients physically to see if it's something that we can take care of in our facility. So upon assessing her physically, I noted that from her shoulders down, she has no movement, no mobility. So she cannot lift her hands, she cannot lift her legs. We turn her. She can speak, but to get our attention to let us know that she needs help, we have a call pad at her shoulder. So the most that she can do is turn her neck left to right to hit that pad to let us know, that she needs help. So yes, sir, she has a catheter. That's how we take care of her voiding, so she can't go to the restroom. We feed her, we change her. So it's 24-hour care. We crush her meds, put them in a applesauce so she can take her meds. But physically, we do everything for her, the CNAs and nurses here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
That's a question.
Yes.
Ms. Speed, you say there's a pad on her. I was looking on the film. There's a pad on her. She normally touches it with her hand, or you say she couldn't move her arm.
Right. So the way that the pad is set up, and it's a flat pad, it's all you have to do is just lightly press and it will call out the room number that needs assistance. So the most that she has to do is, and we set it on her shoulders at night on her pillow. So really just any side of her face, if it notifies any type of movement on it, that's how we know she needs help.
Yeah, I saw the pad and I was wondering if that's what she was doing when you said she
Okay, yes, sir.
her hands. Thank you.
Okay. All righty, we'll move on now to opposition to this movement. Derek Johnson. Is Derek Johnson on Zoom?
Yes, how you doing? How you doing, panel? Derek Johnson from Rapides Parish District Attorney's Office. Our office is still in opposition of any kind of early release or consideration for Ms. Harrison due to the heinous nature of the crimes that she committed. While we do understand that there's some medical issues that she is now incurring, we're still not moving on our opposition at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate that. Are there any questions, Mr. Johnson? Okay, having gone over the ones in favor of and the ones against in opposition to the parole, medical parole, we'll now turn it over to Mr. Barra, Danny Barra to my right, who will do any kind of questioning and lead with the first vote. Mr. Barra?
Well, usually we have a person to question. Since we don't have one today, y'all have pretty much filled in all the questions I would have had about permanent disabilities and unable to move and unable to do any feeding for herself. Right now, she's there outside of the prison setting with y'all already, right?
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think she was complaining of some
She was having some radiating chest pain yesterday afternoon. EMS came and took her to Willis-Knighton Piermont, and they actually admitted her for AFib is what it looks like. So they're monitoring her heart rhythm at this time.
So if we grant her the medical parole that's being requested today, she comes back to your place and y'all continue to care for her?
Yes, sir. She's considered a long-term care resident right now. Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have any more questions on it. I have no questions.
Okay, we prepared to vote.
Gonna vote to grant the medical parole based on the inability to do anything for herself. I concur with Mr. Barra.
Okay. And my vote is also to grant the medical parole. It's one of convenience. She hadn't, I don't know if she even requested this or not, but this is to free up the Department of Corrections to allow them to do other things that are necessary that they have in their day-to-day operation and let the folks at Harmony House take care of her wherever that she ends up. So at this point, her medical parole has been granted. Right, that's the end of our business at Harmony House. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prater. Good seeing you, sir.
Thank you.
Can you imagine a woman doing that to her own child, unable to do anything for herself? And then, is it prison justice? Is it karma? I don't know. We don't have the details. However you want to feel about it, that's your right. But I think it certainly is an interesting way for things to play out, isn't it? Now, if this case sounds familiar to you, it's probably because this happens quite often. We hear about these cases where mothers, caretakers leave those who are unable to fend themselves, take care of themselves. It seems to come up in the news all the time, but I'll read to you the articles that Lady Holly pulled on this case if you want more context. There were 3 people involved. All 3 of them got long sentences. Something interesting about a wrench in this case, the mother, is that her defense attorney actually quit her about 4 weeks before trial or something. Her court appointed attorney. We don't really know why she quit, but I think it kind of just adds to the full picture of what kind of momster this woman was, that her own attorney would quit on her. But that's just speculation on my part. I don't know why she quit. April 8th, 2022. Marilyn and Elizabeth, a woman charged in connection with the death of a 25-year-old woman, and I guess they don't mention, well, here it is, who died of neglect, testified last month that her husband, Glenn, and the young woman's mother, Karen's the parole hearing that we just saw, plotted to starve her. Let me zoom in on this. Is this better? Syra Harrison, 25, of Elizabeth, was found dead November 2018 in a home that she shared with the 3 suspects and minor son. My mind kept going to the minor son's 7-year-old boy. I have a 7-year-old girl, and these are the things that the call to law enforcement came in as a natural death, but the responding deputy found deplorable conditions. The Rhapsodies Parish coroner's report stated that Kyra's body was found on a mattress on the floor, covered with rotting food and bodily fluid. You know, I just heard a case. You know what this is reminding me of? Sheriff Judd from Florida just did a press release on a very, very similar case. It almost sounds identical. Law enforcement estimated that she weighed 70 pounds, and at the time of her death, which the report attributed to failure to thrive, dehydration, a result of neglect. The manner of death was listed as homicide. Karen was sentenced to 50 years in prison in October of 2021, and now she has her lifetime prison in her body. Pleading guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter and guilty as charged to conspiracy to commit second-degree murder. Glenn and Mylan Merrick were charged alongside Harrison for the second-degree, conspiracy to commit second-degree, cruelty to the infirm, and cruelty to juvenile. I guess this is maybe for the 7-year-old, the juvenile charge. On March 17th, Marilyn accepted a plea and offered a testimony before being sentenced. She pled guilty as charged to conspiracy to commit second degree and guilty of a lesser offense of conspiracy to commit cruelty to the infirm and conspiracy to cruelty to the juvenile. She waived spousal privileges and agreed to testify against her husband at his trial. Nice. As a result of the plea, she was sentenced to 15 years. So not the woman we just saw, but the other woman who testified against her husband got 15, which she, frankly, whatever. And 15 years for conspiracy to commit second degree and 5 years each of the other 2 charges to be served concurrently. In her testimony, Marilyn outlined a plot she overheard between Karen, who is her cousin, and Glenn to starve Kyra. She said she learned that Harrison and her husband were having an affair, and this article includes, so her cousin's having an affair. The whole thing is just disgusting. I don't even know why they gave her a plea deal. Please. Marilyn told the court that around August 2018, Karen and her 2 children and a 7-year-old boy moved with her and Glenn at their home in Plainview on Leon Autumn Road. She testified that she didn't know Kieran and Glenn were having an affair until Kieran claimed she was pregnant. Dear God. Marilyn Miracle told Assistant District Attorney, talk about it. I think I know who this ADA was. I mean, what's he supposed to say? But I almost wish he would have said, she's in her own hell, let her get parole. You know what I mean? That no one has been properly feeding her since she moved to the August house in 2018, but occasionally the 7-year-old was allowed to take some food. So, oh my God. She could feed herself, but she had to make sure her food was mashed up just right. Oh, her food, the same way she needs to put her pills in her mashed up food, huh? She testified that she said she overheard a plot between Kieran and Glenn to starve her. They were going to starve her to death, and that was going to and they were going to move together, live together. Them three testified, referring to Kieran, who then plotting to leave with the boy. She said that she heard them talking at the table about the plan and plan to. How could they even take this testimony to mean anything? Why even give her a plea deal? It's just weird. Like, yeah, this is even plot. Like, how about you just three were a bunch of animals? How about that? What were they doing? What were they going to do with you? Asked Kespiva. They were going to leave me here with the body, she said. Marilyn, what's her name? Miracle, said she learned the plan was in the works since August 2018. She said that Kieran and Glenn threatened her if she made plans to go to the police. Yes, of course they did. Back to the motive, with Glenn and Kieran wanting to move to Texas and live happily ever after. What was the problem? Why did they want to kill her? They asked Kespiva. Because Kyra was in their way, said Marilyn Miracle. They didn't have time for her. She slowed them down. Marilyn Miracle said that the trailer they were living in blah, 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 was small and that presented problems for her wheelchair. Oh, wow. It's just unreal. And Karen got tired of fooling with her, she testified. After her testimony, her attorney, Chad Gouliot, and Judge Kressel recommended a mental health evaluation. I don't even know why they gave her a plea deal. But yeah, they're all going to be locked away for life. It's interesting. And it's like my understanding is that in women prison, they don't like people who do this. But I'm not familiar with that. Who knows how she got her injury? I imagine it might be going through the courts. Probably would be my guess. But I can't. We could only speculate. Anyways, thank you, Lady Holly, for pulling up this case. It was interesting in the notes. Holly said, how in the world is she up for parole? So we were quite relieved to see that this was the reason why. And this is the definition of karma. With that, I'll let you go.
My understanding is she is a quadriplegic at this point due to something that happened while she was incarcerated, and her mobility is extremely limited, and the long-term prognosis is not very good at this point.